Well, hello, this is Diane Adler again, and I want to share with you. I did a couple previous videos on suicide risk and factors and professional roles and how that plays into the risk of suicidal behavior. At this section, I want to move into some issues of relationships and how relationships are interrelated or correlated with burnout rates. So just think, what is your personal experience with burnout? If you've been in your career very long, I'm sure that you've had some moments, if not longer, periods of sense of burnout. I will share with you personally. I was in a program, I graduated from a program where part of our training was being involved in a treatment program. So we had group therapy as our treatment, and I had no problem with that. Interestingly, the year after I graduated, uh, the the people in the program felt that it was an intrusion to their lives. So the APA no longer allowed the institution to require students to be involved in therapy. So I'm thankful that I was under that wire. So I'm telling you that because I've had personal experience with burnout. As a therapist, as a psychologist with more than 40 years now, there's moments when I felt like quitting, moments when I wanted to quit. And I'll share my experience because I think it may relate to your experience. We live in small communities. People know us, we know them. We can hardly ever go to the grocery store, to the bank, to the church without someone recognizing us, and not just recognizing, but needing something from us. So, you know, you're in Walmart and somebody comes up with they've had a sinus infection for a week, so would you call them something in, or whatever the case may be. For me, my burnout point personally came not only from clinical work where, it was 8 hours a day, 5 days a week of therapy, 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 and dealing with some challenging folks. Most of my patients have been a delight. Some of them have been a challenge, and some of them have been downright difficult. So, getting tired, frustration, fatigue, compassion fatigue, those are all a part of it. My real burnout came one day, my awareness, when I had gone to church services, which quite honestly I do for me, for my own growth, for my own spiritual development. And I had 3 or 4 people lined up wanting to talk with me. And each one of them wanted about 30 minutes. So, I did that a few times and I thought, I'm pretty decent, pretty good person, but I can't do this. I'm not their therapist. I don't want to come to church and try to get built up and filled up and give. So, I think oftentimes when we're in these professions, we end up with a sense of, I'm doing all the giving. I don't really I don't really have connections. These people are in my life because they want something. We get kind of hard and kind of, old termers use the term hard hearted, and we have to really step back and think about that. You know, is that a true statement that these people only want something? Well, I knew for a fact from my experiences with these people that that wasn't true, but that was truly the way I felt. And I think that's where we need to be willing to be self-aware, willing to question ourselves, willing to, own some things. Because I think we fall into the trap with burnout of accepting those fallacies as truth and we go further into the decline. So I want you just to think about that. In your practice, have you ever gone through an experience where at the end of the day, you said to yourself, I really don't matter in these equations. The only way that I matter is they need something and I provide that need. That's a dangerous thought. It's a dangerous spot, dangerous place to be in. So, to counter that, I think we need to really focus on, as professionals, what are our relationships? Who are we truly connected to? Uh, we need to be willing to both make and maintain friendships. And to do that, old timers used to again say, I think it's pretty biblical even to be a friend, to have a friend, you have to be one, more or less. So, we have to open ourselves up to vulnerabilities. Now, in light of that, yes, we go home at the end of the day tired. We go home at the day socially spent. We are typically not ready for greater social interaction at the end of a work day in medicine or mental health or whatever. But the end of the day is not the all. We have other times in our lives when we need to really foster our relationships with people. We need to make time for our friends. We need to be willing to make friends, first of all. And that's to be willing to see that as people we are vulnerable. No one's perfect. Um, we know from multiple sources of research around the world that being socially connected is one of the most reliable predictors of a long, healthy life. You talk to people who live to be 104. We've seen a lot of those interviews. Oh, I was active. I had good friends. I went dancing on Saturday nights. I played bridge with my whatever. To have a satisfying life, I think we humans need a sense of connectedness. And I think we lose that with burnout. We just don't feel connected. So I think I read a study of it was kind of a review of studies, like 38 different separate studies, and found that protective adult high quality relationships, and when I say high quality, I mean, the give and take, the not sense of I'm just here to do something for this person. That part where, you can show up on my doorstep and I'm there for you, and, you can show up on my doorstep. The give and take, the interchange, the sense of, we're equally important in this. I think, the studies have shown that those are protective factors against depression and anxiety throughout the lifespan. If you look at a lot of older people who have developed Alzheimer's disorder, I think the studies show that many of those people have been isolated. They just don't have that connectedness, that interaction. There was a study. There's a psychologist by the name of, her last name's Lundstedt, and I believe she's with what university is she? Can't recall right off. But anyway, she did a meta-analysis of more than 300, I think 308,000 people. That's a substantial number of people. And she found that these people with poor quality friendships are 2 times more likely to die prematurely than others. That really makes you stop and think. 2 times. And it's also, she found in her analysis that not having these friendships was as much a risk factor to health as smoking 20 cigarettes a day. Found that to be amazing. I don't know how many cigarettes in her pack. I'm not a smoker, but I'm thinking 20 a day. So, if you divide that in hours, that's more than one every waking hour. So, we know the effects of cigarette smoking. We know the effects of secondhand smoke to our bodies. So then let's think about the effect of not having meaningful relationships. Those are very significant. Um, the the Center on American Life in 2021 did a survey of Americans, and this survey found that Americans said 12% of Americans said that they are getting more lonelier. Isn't that amazing? And that was up from like 3% in 1990. So 1993 percent, 2021, 12% of these people surveyed, Americans, said they were lonelier. I find that amazing given the age of technology when we've got Facebook and social interaction. And, it just stood out to me. And I thought, you know, to me, that sounds like a downward trend in socialization. And I think, what I read, we tend to think that COVID was a driving factor of that. But in the studies I've read, even though there was COVID and it had some impact, we weren't doing too well before COVID. We weren't interacting very well. So I want to suggest that as medical providers, as physicians, I think that's primarily who I'm speaking with. As physicians, take a moment to think about your relationships. Take a moment to think about who are the important people in your core world. And of all things, nurture those. We tend as human beings to take the people we're closest to for granted, where in reality, those are the relationships that are going to stick with us throughout life, and they are going to be the ones that comfort us when we're troubled. They're the ones that are going to bear our burden with us. Of all things, we need to nurture those. And I want to just encourage you to take time to do that in your own personal life. And before I go, I want to speak to some research I found on the strength of what they call weak ties. Weak social ties. We have those in the workplace. Work friend, that we really like, but we don't have much involvement outside of work. Those are very valuable relationships. Interactions with just people we're acquainted with. I think when I was thinking about this talk, I was thinking about CVS in Columbia, where I live, and that's my drugstore. And so there's a lady there named Ada. And the first time I met Ada, I clicked with her because that was my mother's name. So I said, "Oh, Ada, I love that name. That was my mother's name." So I kind of had this instant, but she has been over the past 3, 4 years a smile in my world. I go to CVS and there's Ada, and she always has the most beautiful smile. So the other day I say to Ada, "Ada, you have made my day. You have the most beautiful smile." And she was so happy. And I thought, I'm making just a sincere, true comment here. And I thought, how many true, sincere comments do people hear that they trust, that they, we don't have to know somebody well to compliment. We don't have to know the inner workings of their life to have that brief acquaintance connection. And I kind of love those moments. I would encourage you to have those moments. It might be with the folks down at the donut shop where you stop and get donuts for your office. It may be the vet's office who you go in and they say, "Oh, you're mama or daddy to Susie, the puppy dog, the German Shepherd." Or, they've got this connection that may seem meaningless, but they drive us. Those little moments in life, those weak ties. I don't like the term weak tie because, my relationship with Ada is pretty significant. Don't know her at all outside of CVS, but she's a source of something for me. And I think that's the key to getting through this life in a fairly decent, healthy frame of mind, we need social times. We need connectedness. We need social interactions. And sure, we get enough of those 5 days a week, but they're not the same. Those are people who need something from you. I want to encourage you as providers, go out in your world, take a look around. Who do you have things in common with? Who interests you? You know, we can build great friendships based on one single interest. We can expand and grow and make those weak ties into very strong ties. Years ago people say in the span of your lifetime, if you can count your good friends on one hand, you're fortunate. Think about that. Do you have 5? If you don't have 5, please start with 1 or 2 or start somewhere, because I want you to know burnout will lead you to believe that you don't have any. And typically that's not true. Typically it's not true. We need to watch where we let our minds take us. We need to be cautious on what we let burnout tell us. And of all things, we need to be kind to self. So as I close that, I wanted to read to you something that I really butcher his name, but the actor Keanu Reeves, am I saying that? Keanu. I never get it right. I just want to call him Big K or something like that. So here's what I read this that he had written. Here's what he says. None of us are getting out of here alive. So please stop treating yourself like an afterthought. Eat the delicious food. Walk in the sunshine. Jump in the ocean. Say the truth that you are carrying in your heart like a hidden treasure. Be silly. Be kind. Be weird. There's no time for anything else. And I like that. I just like that. I want to share that with you. So thank you for your attention. I will see you guys later.